Stephen was only 8 when the bullying started in school. He didn't know it was bullying. He didn't know what it was. So he never told his teacher, and he never told his parents when he went home that day. He came back in the next day, and the same thing happened again. And he still never told his teacher, never told his parents. And every day thereafter, through age 9, 10, 11, and 12, for 4 years, every day. And he never told a soul. Then he transitioned to a new senior school, and he was delighted to find that his bullies hadn't followed him there. They'd gone to another school in the area. Happy days. But what happened? New bullies found Stephen. And so the pattern resumed again for 3 more years. And he still never breathed a word. Stephen got to the point one day he woke up, age 15, and he thought, that's it. The pain stops today. Thankfully, he did something positive with those words, and he went and tackled his bullies. Now, he didn't tackle them physically. That would have defeated the whole purpose. No, in fact, he went and spoke to them, and he said, lads, I've been thinking. And I've been thinking about me, and I've decided that I'm okay being Stephen. And I've been thinking about you, and we'll never be best friends, and that's 100% okay. But can we just get past this madness and get on with our lives? And the bully said, okay. Sorry, Stephen. And that was it. It was over. After 7 years, it was like a bullying tap had been turned off that had been running for 7 consecutive years. And all it took was a 30-second conversation to turn it off forever. The problem was it took young Stephen 7 years of his little life to get ready for those 30 seconds. What had changed for Stephen? In that year when he turned 15, Stephen's self-esteem got to the point where he realized he was enough. And by realizing he was enough, that effectively made him bully-proof. And being bully-proof allowed him the power to go and tackle his bullies. So when I heard Stephen's story, I began to take an interest in bullying, and I learned some stuff I never knew. I used to mistakenly think there were only 2 people involved in every act of bullying. There was the victim and the bully. I was wrong. There are at least 3 people involved in every act of bullying. There's the victim, there's the bully, and there's the bystander. It's more like a triangle, the victim, the bully, and the bystander. There's always someone else who knows what's going on. And usually more than one bystander, usually the victim's best friend and the bully's henchman or woman. And I wondered why for 7 years, with all that going on, with all those characters involved, why nobody would say a word. And this is my hypothesis. I'm going to act it out if I may. I'm Stephen. I'm being bullied for 7 years. Why would I not tell my parents or my teacher? Ironically, because they care. They care. And if I tell them I'm being bullied, they'll do something about it. And there'll be a meeting in the principal's office, and the bully will know he's been outed, and perhaps the bullying will get worse for a time. I'm the bully. Am I ever going to tell teacher that I'm picking on Stephen? He's mad. I'm the henchman. I'm ever going to rat my mate out? No way. So who does that leave? It leaves Stephen's best friend. Now, Stephen's best friend really loved Stephen, genuinely loved him. And it was as though, for 7 years, he also said nothing. It was as though when there was an incident, he'd put his arm around Stephen and say, there, Steve. Sorry that you're hurting. But by saying nothing, it was almost like he was giving the thumbs up to the bully, saying, you keep going there, pal. So long as you want to pick on my best friend in the world, you can count on me saying nothing. Are they the actions of a best friend? Why Stephen's story? Because Stephen is my son. I'm sure some of you didn't see that coming, but Stephen is my son. And my boy was bullied for 7 years, and I never knew. I'm not proud of that. I told you already that Stephen, for 7 years, never told his parents. Well, I'm the dad that Stephen felt he couldn't tell. And that makes me sad. But I'm also a tad angry, to be honest, because in my opinion, the best friend had the least to lose and the most to gain by saying something. But he chose to stay silent. Had he not stayed as a passive bystander, but instead stood up as an active upstander, Stephen's journey could have been so different. Through this process, I've come to believe that the war on bullying, like the war on drugs, cannot be won. Bullies, like drugs, we'll always have with us. In his exceptional TED Talk, Johann Hari proposes that the antidote to addiction is connection. I propose the antidote to bullying is positive self-esteem. Self-esteem is the armor that we can give to our children and our grandchildren to help them believe that they are enough. And if they believe they are enough, perhaps they'll also become bully-proof like Stephen. Would you like to know what happened, Stephen, when the bullying tap was turned off? He blossomed. He blossomed. He came into his own. And in that same senior school, they created an award for him, just for him, at graduation, for the kindest boy in the school. Pretty cool. And looking back then, we realized that that was the chink in his armor when he was only 8. He was just a good, kind, gentle little boy. And some others decided to make that incredible strength, to take that incredible strength and tell him it was a weakness. But they failed. I've asked Stephen's permission to tell his story. And do you know what he said? He said, "Please do, Dad." He says, "If you tell my story to enough people, perhaps we'll save other kids having to go through what I went through." I think you'll agree that's pretty generous. And I hope he'll agree that telling this story from a TEDx red dot is not a bad start. So what's our takeaway? What small changes can we make tomorrow, having heard Stephen's story? Well, I propose let's share Stephen's story with our children and our grandchildren for 3 reasons. Number one, and firstly, most importantly, let's share Stephen's story with our children and our grandchildren to honour his courage having stepped up and confronted his bullies. Second reason I recommend that we share Stephen's story with our children and our grandchildren is that it will become part of their self-esteem armour. It will help them understand and realise that they are in fact enough. And if enough of them realise they are enough, well, that will help them become bully-proof. And the third reason I recommend we tell Stephen's story is because if we tell Stephen's story to enough people, perhaps some of our children and grandchildren will in fact step up and become upstanders. And if we do that, I believe that Stephen's own words will come to pass. If you tell my story to enough people, together we may save others having to go through what I went through. Thank you.